The global mission of Girlguiding, as part of the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts (WAGs), is to empower girls and young women, fostering a sense of belonging, self-confidence, and community. For many transgender girls, the promise of this inclusive, all-female space represents a critical opportunity to socially integrate, build friendships, and develop skills alongside their peers, free from the discrimination or alienation they may face in co-ed environments. The opportunity to simply be one of the girls holds profound psychological and social significance. However, this promise of inclusion has fractured along national lines, creating a stark and painful disparity. In the United Kingdom, Girlguiding has adopted a progressive and welcoming policy, explicitly stating that transgender girls are welcome to join, and that decisions are made on a case-by-case basis with the child's welfare as the priority. This policy aligns with the organization's core values of inclusivity and support for all girls. In sharp contrast, Girlguiding in Australia made a decisive and controversial pivot in 2021. The national body revised its policy to define membership eligibility based on the gender assigned at birth. This change effectively barred transgender girls from joining units for girls, directing them instead to co-ed programs or other youth groups. The decision sent shockwaves through the community and marked a significant departure from the inclusive trajectory of other guiding organizations. The rationale provided by Girlguiding Australia centered on creating biological female-only spaces, citing feedback from some members and parents. They framed the policy as a measure to provide a single-gender environment, which they argued was a unique and defining characteristic of the guiding experience. This reasoning, however, was immediately contested as being exclusionary and conflating sex with gender identity. For transgender girls and their families, the Australian policy was not merely an administrative rule but a profound act of rejection. It communicated that these children were not recognized as real girls by a venerable institution, potentially exacerbating feelings of dysphoria, isolation, and otherness. The message contradicted the very principles of building self-esteem and a positive identity that guiding purports to uphold. The backlash was swift and fierce from LGBTQ+ advocacy groups, allies, and even from within the guiding community itself. Critics accused the organization of bowing to conservative political pressure and adopting a stance antithetical to modern understandings of gender diversity. Many argued that the policy was harmful, discriminatory, and out of step with both contemporary ethical standards and the global guiding movement's spirit. This policy divergence highlights a fundamental tension within international youth organizations, the balance between national autonomy and universal principles. While WAGs promotes inclusion, individual member organizations retain sovereignty over their own policies. This has resulted in a patchwork where a transgender girl's experience is entirely dependent on her geographic location, undermining the notion of a unified global sisterhood. The debate often centers on concerns about safety and fairness, particularly from those who support the ban. These arguments, frequently imported from discussions about sports, suggest that inclusive policies could compromise the safety or comfort of cisgender girls. However, proponents of inclusion counter that no evidence supports such fears within the context of guiding activities and that fostering empathy and understanding is a more valuable lesson. Furthermore, the exclusionary policy poses practical and ethical dilemmas for local volunteer leaders. Many leaders, committed to inclusivity in their own units, find themselves bound by a national policy they disagree with, forced to turn away eager children or navigate heartbreaking conversations with families. This has led to internal dissent and reports of leaders leaving the organization in protest. The impact extends beyond the transgender individuals themselves. Cisgender girls in guiding are denied the opportunity to learn and grow alongside peers with diverse life experiences, missing out on lessons in empathy, acceptance, and the broad spectrum of what it means to be a girl or woman in today's world. It simplifies womanhood into a narrow biological definition. Legally, such bans exist in a complex landscape. While some jurisdictions have anti-discrimination protections for gender identity, exemptions for single-sex clubs or organizations can create loopholes. This legal ambiguity allows national bodies to enact restrictive policies, though they often face continuous scrutiny and potential legal challenge from human rights advocates. The controversy also reflects broader societal and political culture wars regarding transgender rights. Youth organizations like Girlguiding have become unlikely battlegrounds, with their policies scrutinized and leveraged by groups on all sides of the debate. This places the organizations under intense external pressure, sometimes pulling them away from their child-centered missions. For the global guiding movement, This issue presents a critical test of its stated values. The inconsistency between member organizations risks tarnishing its reputation as a progressive force for girl empowerment. It raises the question of whether core values like respect and integrity can be subject to national interpretation when it comes to fundamental human dignity. Moving forward, the path is fraught with challenge. Organizations like Girlguiding Australia face ongoing pressure to reconsider their stance, while inclusive branches face criticism from conservative quarters. The long-term solution may require WAGs to take a stronger stance in advocating for minimum inclusive standards across all its member organizations to protect the rights of every girl, regardless of her gender identity. Ultimately, the exclusion of transgender girls from any branch of Girlguiding is more than a policy dispute, it is a human issue with deep consequences. It determines which children get to wear the uniform, sing the songs, and belong to the sisterhood. The resolution of this conflict will define what girl means in the 21st century for one of the world's largest youth movements and will signal to an entire generation of young people whether their identities are worthy of acceptance and celebration.